Monday, everybody, and welcome into the Graham Luck and Mac Lane podcast presented by Ingles. And actually, happy Sunday to a few of you guys who have been watching these late night, Sunday night, because we're posting them, I would say on average, maybe around 10 p.m. So you sickos who are watching this at like 3 a.m., respect. We love that. We love you guys for it. But it was indeed a crazy weekend, Mac. We have so much to get into. We now have 4 ranked teams in the AP poll out of the
Let's go.
ACC. Mac needs to address a controversial take that he had on Twitter X. So we need to get into that, Mac. But let's say this as, obviously it's going to be a fun episode. There's still so much going on with this hurricane. And I want to give kind of some good news here because our partners over at Ingles have been just doing everything possible to help the people of Western North Carolina. And Ingles just put this out on Sunday that the Red Cross will be giving out 500 meals in the following Ingles parking lots: the Ingles in Burnsville, North Carolina, Weaverville, and Asheville on I don't know how to say that. Leicester, Leicester. Leicester.
Perfect.
Leicester Highway, store number 62. They'll be giving out 500 meals per day, beginning at 1 p.m. each day. That is amazing. So if you need that, if you're in Western North Carolina or you know someone who is, tell them about that. Ingles, Mac, they just, of course, continue to help people in Western North Carolina, and we just love that.
They're a leader in the community, and a big reason why we obviously wanted to partner with them years ago, and they just continue to step up to the plate each and every time. And again, we're not forgetting about anybody in this tragedy. We're going to continue to push this. We know there is a long road ahead for a lot of people. So ways that we have already given, again, as we kind of told you guys, different things that you can do. The Samaritan's Purse, really good thing. We love that. We support that. They have done some awesome things. Check them out on Instagram. You can kind of see them live, what they're doing. That's a unit near and dear to, kind of some of my family's heart, and that we wanted to jump into. And of course, the United Way of Greenville as well. So just continue, guys, support any way that you can. Let's help our neighbors. Let's be good neighbors and be the hands and feet, when we can, monetarily, or go and, do stuff of that nature or donate. So really appreciate everybody that reached out, that has also aided and given a bunch of help. And again, we shout out Davin Van last week, but his efforts are just truly amazing. We're headed to NC State this weekend, and I'm sure I'll see him in person and can't wait to just talk about that and maybe supply some more details to you guys on how he was able to help. So again, thoughts and prayers continuing to be sent to Western North Carolina.
100%, Mac. And also Ingles is putting out a lot of good stuff on their Facebook page about how you can help in that area. So let's get to a message from our great friends at Ingles, and then we're going to get into these games, Mac.
Did you know Ingles only sells USDA choice and prime cuts of meat? Maybe it's time to reward yourself. Our butchers cut all our meat fresh in the store every day. Grass-fed, organic, you name it. Not only that, we'll even cut it to order just the way you like it. And we grind meat fresh in the store multiple times a day. It's all in the bag. That's the best meat in town for the best folks in town. Ingles, low prices, love the savings.
Mac, there are now 4 ranked teams out of the Atlantic Coast Pacific Continent Conference, and those teams are Miami at number 6, Clemson at number 10. Clemson jumps 5 spots because of some insanity that happened around the country. Pitt is number 22, rank 'em, and Southern Methodist University, SMU, number 25. Louisville drops out after losing to SMU. I saw Louisville receiving votes and Syracuse receiving votes as well. Syracuse had a sneaky good weekend too. I mean, we're going to get to them. Yeah. But Mac, this weekend was chaos. Can we say an anchor down? Go Doors. My cousin, a proud Vanderbilt grad. Let's go.
I love that. Absolute chaos. And it's one of those where you're like praying, thanking God that you had a bye, right? If you didn't have to play this week, you're just looking around, seeing the carnage. But when you look at everybody that lost, 25 UNLV, number 1 Alabama, number 4 Tennessee, I'm scrolling a little bit here, 9 Missouri, 10 Michigan, 11 USC. Who else do we got here? There's some more. Wait, 22 Louisville, and that's it. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. The almost, if Miami would have lost, I think it would have either tied or been the record for the most ever that lost to non-ranked teams
Yeah.
in a single day. And KG, this took me back when I was seeing all this chaos. It took me back to 2016 when
Mm.
Clemson lost to Pitt. And I just remember how, one, quiet, and then two, like despair in the stadium
Yeah.
because you were there, I was there. I'm
Everyone
walking
thought it was
around
over.
seeing people just fully dejected. And then the rest of the day happens and everybody lost. Like everybody right behind Clemson also lost. And that's kind of how it is today. And you see kind of how the AP rankings, are shaken out now. Clearly not as significant as the college football playoff rankings, but people not, free falling like maybe they would if others would have lost in a similar fashion. So it's very interesting that this new season, 12 teams, big old playoff, first time ever. It's going to be fascinating just to see where we land at the end of it when it's all said and done. And also, while we're talking about rankings, before we jump into some of these games and other big picture, whatever, I got a little wrinkle for my power rankings that come out later. Just check it
Ooh.
out. I'm going to make a lot of people mad, I think, but
Okay.
tell me why I'm wrong. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Ooh. I'm very intrigued. Okay. By the way, that day, Mac, was November 12th, 2016. I was looking that up. So many teams lost. Number 17, well, of that week, number 17, UNC lost. Number 2, Clemson lost to Pitt. Number 3, Michigan lost to Iowa. Number 4, Washington lost to Southern Cal. Like that was just wild. All of these top
Yeah.
10 teams
Penn
losing.
State, were they in there too? Did they lose? Do you see
Let's
that
see.
by chance?
Penn State won, but
They did.
number 8, Texas A&M lost. And
Yep.
number 9, Auburn lost. God,
Yeah,
that was
see,
a
like everybody, literally
day.
everyone lost.
Yeah.
Everyone lost.
That was crazy.
It was
Wow,
crazy.
it's really hard to imagine number 9 Auburn. But it was much later in the season, Mac. I mean, that was just rude for no reason. It was much later than a season than October 5th. So there's still
Yeah,
a
it mattered.
ton.
It mattered.
Yeah. Yeah. And we didn't have a 12-team playoff, so that's a whole
Right.
other situation.
Right.
But Mac,
Do you
a
have,
team-
let me ask you this. I'm so
Go ahead.
sorry. Do you have where Clemson fell to? Like, did Clemson fall to
Oh
4?
no.
No.
I just
Dang.
X'd out of it. Yeah. It would be tough because 2, 3, and 4 all lost. So I don't even think they fell
I
out of
know.
the top 4. I don't
They
think they
might
did.
not have. You
Yeah.
bring up what you're going to bring up. I'm going to go find this as we're talking
cool.
really quick. You just keep
I mean,
going.
Mac,
Keep going.
I'm surprised Alabama dropped to even 6.
It's
because,
a quality loss, It's a quality loss.
Like Notre Dame, it's like they didn't even lose to Northern Illinois. I mean, who cares?
Right.
I'm surprised
exactly.
Vandy's not ranked 5th or whatever.
They should have
okay.
been. They should have
But
been.
Mac,
Clemson
a
fell to
team
4.
that-
So there you go. They went from
Yeah,
2
exactly.
to 4.
Exactly.
Great.
That makes-
Losing to a non-conference, or excuse me, a non-ranked opponent at home, and they fell to 4. That's nuts. It was just it was a crazy day. It was a crazy day, just like it was this past Saturday.
And that actually was a pretty good Pitt team with James Conner.
Sure,
But we're going to
sure.
get to you, Pittsburgh, ranked number 22 in the country. A team that avoided disaster somehow, Mac, is Miami. Number 8, Miami beats Cal 39-38. Another just absurd game. Like, just absurd. Very similar to Virginia Tech. You're down big. For Miami, you were down 25, right? You're down 25. And you're on the road, however many miles away from home. You've traveled all the way out there. Shout out Cal for the environment, for game day, for the Calgorithm. And Cal played really well. Like when you're up 35-10, and I know they blew the lead, I get that, but they looked great. They outplayed them for what? 45 minutes of the game, at least until the fourth quarter.
Right.
But Mac, I guess let's talk about the game and how Miami did it, but should we be concerned? Like what do we make of this?
Well, I think to do the people justice, KG, I think we should start with the elephant in the room.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what
Your
we should start.
controversial take.
I just called it as I saw it. Wasn't called, was it? Nothing happened on the field. I don't know what the big deal is. Here, let me break it down for you guys, though, because
Okay, please.
it was already out there. I'm not going to delete it. I'm not going to change what I said. I'm watching the game live, which, by the way, after a 20-hour day, I'm still watching football
I
at
was
2 a.m.
not.
What the heck? You're not a sicko like me. I'm like, there's an illness.
I watched the full
I was
replay
actually
today.
surprised. Yeah. It was a great game, but I was surprised at the amount of people that were still up, that were not Miami fans. Like, I had more Clemson fans in my DMs, calling me out than anything else. And so I'm watching it live, and it's 3rd down and a billion, whatever it was. And Fernando's running around doing his thing and standing straight up and just gets knocked out. And it was a sick hit. It was a great hit. And again, I'm watching it live and I'm like, oh, boom, there goes. Awesome hit. Didn't look egregious, didn't look anything crazy. And there's no flags. I'm like, awesome, here we go. Going along, doing our thing. And then all of a sudden, I start to hear, oh, that might be targeting, blah, blah, blah. What? And so I send out a tweet. There's no shot. Not even close. What are we talking about? It was a great tackle, a great hit. That's a football play, people. And then I see an instant replay. And I was like, that might be targeting. That might be targeting. I don't know.
Okay.
I think what I'm going to chalk it up to wasn't called on the field, and they said it stands. So when you say stands, not confirmed, like there's different words there for a reason, and whatever they felt, there wasn't enough information. However you got to that. But again, I'm cool with it. It wasn't called. There was referees right there. They were right there. They could have made it if they wanted to. I don't think they had a pager on them, saying, hey, don't make this call. There wasn't the Buffalo Wild Wings button that was immediately there. So they didn't call it on the field. So I'm fine with it. And honestly, I do think there's like so much hatred right now for Miami because they are who they are. That if that was any other team, nobody would care. Nobody would care. But the fact that it happened 2 weeks in a row, KG, pretty crazy.
Because it's a top 10 team who's undefeated, that's part of it.
Yeah.
Mac, that was absolutely targeting. Absolutely targeting. I think that you could put that hit in the textbook for targeting.
When they look it up, that's the video that everyone sees.
They would show that hit.
This is the rule.
Okay.
You know what? Because you're saying that, you know what our comments and on social media is going to be flooded with? Kelly knows ball. Because they agree with you. That's my favorite thing. That's my favorite. If I say something, like for me, I said it's not targeting. All my comments are from Miami people, and it says Eric knows ball. Eric knows ball. Eric knows ball. Everybody else is, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. It's my favorite thing. It's so funny. It's so funny.
Fandom trumps all. There's no doubt about it. But I don't have a dog in the fight, and that is absolutely targeting. But I will say this, Mac, just from a bigger picture thing.
Yeah.
To me, that was targeting for sure. They didn't call it, which is what it is. Like you said, they said the call stands. They didn't call it at the time, right. So maybe that had a factor there.
That's right.
I am not trying to say Miami didn't win the game. Obviously, they won the game. They're undefeated. We're moving on. But I'm not a conspiracy theorist. But I get where the average fan is coming from.
Yeah.
Because the last 2 weeks, it's been a little sus. Like it's fair to think that as a fan. Now, it doesn't change anything. Miami's still undefeated and they're moving on and we're rolling, whatever. But they're number 6 in the country. But I get it. I'm just going to say it doesn't look great.
Yeah.
But Miami
let me
doesn't
say
care.
this.
They won the game.
Business is booming. All right. And we're doing good. We're going to keep it rolling, baby. No, I'm totally joking about that. But let me ask you this too. Did targeting penalty all of a sudden equal 29 points? Like,
right.
Did I miss that part of the rule? You know what I mean? Like, Cam Ward is a dog. That guy is a monster. And he did it. And you know what's funny, KG? Yeah. I made this side bet with myself as I am literally about to pass out on the hotel couch where I'm sitting there watching the game, falling asleep, and it's over. It's 35-10. The game is over. And so I'm sitting there and I'm watching and I say, okay, if they score a touchdown right now, I'll stay up and watch the whole game.
Right. I think everybody
would march down the freaking field and score. And I'm like, gosh, dang it. Here we go. I'm locked in. And they did it. And watching it was nuts. It was literally, you talk about the targeting thing being the epitome of that with the rule book. No quit. Don't ever give up on your team. Yeah. That game is also right there as well. And the belief, the plays, the chunk, that massive, I don't know how many yards it was. It was 1 billion yards. Let me see if I can find it. By Restrepo, 77 yards on the first play, 77 yards. I mean, it's crazy. And then they get a 20-yard penalty and convert immediately. And it's just like, they were balling. They're so fun to watch. I think two major things as we're kind of transitioning back and forth about different things here with this game. Number one, I don't think anybody expected Cal to be able to have those big, chunky pass plays that they had, which give them all the credit in the world. Fernando Mendoza was on fire. That dude was lighting it up, had 11 completions for almost 300 yards. That's nearly 30 yards a complete. That's crazy. That's awesome. And he was inspired, grew up right on basically Miami's campus, probably really wanted to go to Miami.
Did he
and
said
had,
it. He did.
yeah, had receptions of 57, 66, 56, 51. That's crazy. That's insane. So never thought that would happen. And then Cam just, this I think is kind of the last straw. Like you've got to turn it back a little bit.
That pick six was really bad.
Dumb. It was very dumb.
You
cannot roll to the right and think that A, you're good enough, B, your guys are good enough to throw it across the entire field against the nation's leading intercepting team and not think something bad. Like, that was dumb. That was just a dumb play. And so he's got to lock that in, make a little bit smarter. And again, the Virginia Tech thing, like, just go down. Don't make a bad play worse. When he had that fumble and then they scored the very next play. I mean, it's losing football. That's going to catch up if you don't address it. And so as great as he is, 430 yards, 3 total touchdowns, running all over the yard, if he can just pull that back a second, which I know is also his brilliance. I know that.
Yeah.
But if you can pull it back, you can win a national championship. That's the level, because you cannot do that against Clemson. You cannot do that against Ohio State. You cannot do that against Alabama, Georgia, whoever else might be in. You will lose badly. You've got to be smarter with the football.
I agree, but Mac, look, as amazing as the comeback was, and as good as Cam Ward was really outside of the pick six, and as good as Restrepo was, I mean, dude was a monster. This worries me for Miami. I think it happens once against Virginia Tech on a Friday night, and you're like, oh, okay, it happened.
Yeah.
Twice in a row. I get that you've traveled all the way out there. I understand. But just kind of a lack of urgency at the beginning of games, right? I don't think the defense has looked great, Mac, when they've played offenses with a pulse, with like shifty back/receivers like Jay Knott. And then Miami also had 9 penalties for 110 yards. That's an issue. That's kind of the Miami of old. It felt like, Mac, and I know Ruben Bain was back and he had a really good fourth quarter, but it felt like for me that Miami thought, we're going to get to the quarterback. We're going to be able to get to the quarterback much more than we did. And Cal was so good at getting the ball out quick. Like you said, I mean, those massive plays, it was really, I know Mendoza made some really good throws, but a lot of it was just a dump down.
Just getting it to his guy.
Yeah. And then Jay not going to making plays. So I think Miami has to really take a look at themselves defensively, because that concerns me. The offense, I think, will be fine. I don't love digging these big holes, sure. But the defense, I feel like it's got to be better.
Yeah. And the interesting thing, I guess, for me is, it's all connected, right? Like the turnovers and, just putting, yourself in bad situations. I mean, you look at how much of a momentum shift that pick six was. I mean, that was backbreaking. That it should have been. I mean, it wasn't, but it should have been. But yeah, just kind of stalling out, like you said, slow start, and then defense just getting housed on. I mean, guys running wide open, as you mentioned, and then making one guy miss and see you later. Like, they're to the house. So they do have to lock that in. Yeah, they've got to figure that out, because guess what? Louisville's next, and they're going to dial it up. They're going to be able to throw it all over the yard. They can run it if they want to. The biggest test by far to this point is going to be this coming weekend. And how locked in are you? How much are you going to be ready to go? Because you're going to be in an absolute dogfight. And they actually have a bye. They have some time. So they get a break. And then they'll have them in a week and a half. So I don't think it could come at a better time. A Louisville team that lost 2 in a row. They play Virginia at Virginia. And so that's going to be another hard game. We'll see. But the Cardiac Canes are alive and well and feeling great right now.
They are not boring. We will say that about Miami. And, the motto of this weekend was really just survive. And they did that. Yeah. But they got to stop digging these holes, man. They got to stop doing that.
That's right.
All right, Mac.
Can we give some love to Cal, though, quickly? Can we give some love to them? Because played out of their mind. The environment was unbelievable. Game day was sick. We're going to be there in a couple weeks, guys. They were so good. Now, listen, I don't expect to get that. But I hope we get some people. And, I would love to see the fans, love to see the students, because that was awesome. And I hope that environment's good when we're going to be there. Maybe in 3 weeks. Who knows? We'll see what the timing ends up being. But I am excited to get out there and excited to see the campus and see everybody.
Cal is a pretty darn good team. I think especially at home. We know they struggled at Florida State for sure. But, I mean, this is a team with already have 4 wins. I think bowl eligibility should obviously be kind of the lower end of their goal.
Yeah.
And we'll see what Cal can do. And, of course, that would have been a massive win for them, Mac. And, your show, I don't believe, is going to start at 4 a.m. So that
I mean, we could if they want to. I mean, I'll be there.
They seem to like that.
Yeah, whatever.
They seem secure with the 4 a.m. Okay,
Yeah.
Mac, let's get to number 15 now. Number 10, Clemson's win over Florida State, 29-13. This was such a weird game.
I want you to get it all out. I want you to get it all out right now.
Oh, God. It was weird. It was uncomfortable. It was a bit frustrating. But also, I think for Clemson, obviously for Florida State, it was frustrating. And it reminded me, I hate to pat myself on the back, but it did remind me of what I said on Friday, where Florida State just finds a way to play Clemson well, even when they're not supposed to. And, you only give up 29 points to a Clemson offense that's been really good. And Florida State, Mac, I think I texted you this during the game. They made like 17 catastrophic mistakes. If they just catch some of those balls, some of those like wide open drops.
Like legit 5. Like out, 5 bombs.
Yes.
5 bombs.
It would have been a lot closer of a game. Yeah. I almost feel like I learned more about Florida State than I did about Clemson. Like Clemson, they survived. It was a pretty pedestrian performance all around, except for Phil Maffa, who's a monster. He was so good. But I think Brock Glenn had his moments. And I think if his team can help him out a little bit more, Brock Glenn, I want to see more. Like, I think for once, if you're a Florida State fan and you're thinking, well, we're 1-5, like, I get that. The season is over. But Brock Glenn, sorry, that was rude. Brock Glenn could be your guy. Like, I think we saw something from him. We saw some moxie. We saw some confidence. We saw some big-time throws. We saw him staying in the pocket, taking hits. I liked what I saw from Brock Glenn. I don't feel like I learned much about Clemson. I still think this defense is sus. I think that Dabo was very conservative. In my radio days, I used to call it the run, punt offense. It felt like that he was very conservative in the second half, and he could be, and it worked out. But I just don't think we learned that much about Clemson.
Yeah. It was weird. It was frustrating, and probably even more frustrating for me because of the time difference. That game starts at 7. I'm on TV till 8. So I barely get to see it, barely get to watch it. And then when I do watch it, it's halftime. Then I have to go do halftime. And then I get to watch, the fourth quarter uninterrupted. So it's one of those things like live when you're seeing it, you're just like, this feels bad. Doesn't feel good.
Weird, yeah.
And then you dive into it and you see, okay, Clemson had 500 yards of total offense. Clemson ran the ball for 240 yards, 265 yards, excuse me. Clemson held Florida State to 20 yards rushing.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like,
and you scored 29 points. Like, that's it.
Scored 29. Had 2 blocked field goals. It's weird. It's weird. So I go back and forth. Let's just break it down. I did not like the red zone offense at all. I thought that it was poorly executed, poorly called plays, weird play. Felt like I was watching last year's team, and I'm just couldn't get out of your own way.
But less fumbles. The
lack of touchdowns there. Yeah, less fumbles. Thank God. Drop balls, like drop catches was weird, uncharacteristic. A couple of touchdowns, couple over the middle that would have been big plays for Clemson as well. I'm talking here. Cade, again, because of that, his accuracy's down. He was 57%, but he had 300 total yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, it's really strange. It was a strange game. And the fact that Phil Maffa ran for 150 plus with no touchdowns, it's just weird. It was a weird game. At the end of the day, you cover, you get a massive dub against a team that is always, just normally a struggle. And you do it in your place, and your coach becomes the leading ACC wins ever, 174, and overtakes, the late great Bobby Bowden at his house. I mean, it's just in a weekend that a lot of people lost. It's one of those things, like you said, the name of the game is to survive. And so I do agree with you, though. I feel like we did learn more about FSU. I think we did learn that Brock Glenn maybe has something, because this is still, if there's one piece of the Clemson defense that I feel the best about, it's the secondary.
Yeah.
And for him to carve them up, throw it 41 times, only get sacked twice, and have 230 yards and 2 tutties, we'll see. And a lot of drops. Could have been a lot worse. Could have been a lot better for him. So we'll see. I am now very intrigued with what Florida State looks like the rest of the year. Before, I was kind of like, this is just done. I'm interested now, and I'm interested to see what they look like moving forward.
I think you're right. I think it's at least interesting. They have a bye next week, and then they go to Duke, so that could be very interesting. Clemson goes to Wake Forest this coming weekend. When it comes to Clemson, Mac, because we said, Florida State, it feels like they didn't win, obviously, but maybe a moral victory-ish going into their bye week and into the next game. For the Tigers, again, tell me if I'm wrong. I think that the offense is fine. I think you got really conservative in the second half. The missed field goals, and they were talking about on the broadcast how Florida State scouted something they could exploit. Well, yeah, they definitely did. And then they put Peter Woods and different guys to block at the end of the game, so it was fine. But the defense, Mac, one thing that I see, and you tell me, I feel like the D-line has taken a step back, which is, says a lot because Clemson has had some absolutely ferocious D-line, so it is what it is. But I think specifically the depth on the D-line isn't necessarily there. And I know this was just Peter Woods' first game back. He needs to be able to get more in game shape. I know that's super important. But it just feels like you're not really able to affect the quarterback as much as you have in the past. And that affects everything else for your defense. Right. And it just feels, even though you only gave up 13 points, I get that. But it's flipped, right? I think last year Clemson's defense won at games. Even the year before, Clemson's defense won at games. Feels like it's going to have to almost flip the other way now.
Right. The interesting thing with where Clemson is right now, and I'm actually probably a little shocked that, maybe we aren't seeing this preseason, like we didn't see this earlier, and maybe we will see it. I don't know. I have no inside information on this. I thought that Clemson, given what they probably knew, what we know now, with the lack of defensive in-depth, the lack of dynamic defensive in-depth, would do what they did in 2019. 3 down defensive linemen.
Interesting.
4 linebackers, 3 safeties, 2 corners. Like, get your best on the field, whoever you think that is. And you can blitz from different angles, whatever. That's where I think they probably should transition to. Now, that's hard. It's really hard to just switch a defense middle of the season. But that's what I would do, KG. And again, I think defensive end is the issue. You just got some young guys, which has been great to see, Shaq Lawson's little brother step up and get some time, but I just don't think he's, quite ready for that. And I don't think you have really super dynamic guys, after TJ Parker that are ready right now, to step up and do their thing. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting from that defense, what they look like moving forward. Cause you're right. I mean, the sacks, I just expected more from this defense, from the front unit, from the linebackers. But I've been very impressed with the secondary. I think they're really good. I think they're dynamic. I think you're talking about a lot of first-round talent back there, and it's going to be fun to continue to see them grow up.
Crazy question. Clemson plays at Wake, and they play Virginia. 2 teams you can most likely, we'll see, beat without an incredible defensive performance. Then you have a bye week. Is that something you could perhaps install maybe some packages of that in the bye week, Mac?
Sure.
And we're purely speculating here.
We are. This is, again, I want to be for real about
Don't
it.
quote us.
There's no any information about it. Yeah, for sure. You can.
Okay.
And that probably would be super useful against the Louisville team, against a Pittsburgh team, who are both probably going to throw it all over the yard. And maybe Virginia and Wake Forest try to do that too. Wake Forest had a nice rushing output this past game that led them to victory. We'll talk about that here in a second. But I think so. I think you could. It's because you have a lot of veteran leadership. You have some veteran guys that know what to do. That's what I would do. That's what I would do.
Keep an eye on that. We'll see if that happens. Mac, let's get to our last 2 games of the Big Four breakdown here, and then we'll hit the speed round. But SMU goes to Louisville, number 22 Louisville, and beats them 34-27. We both picked Louisville, so we can't say much. But
we're fools. What are we doing?
Yeah, we are. Mac, it felt like SMU was in control from the very beginning. They never trailed. They go right down the field on the first drive, and you're thinking, okay, all right, let's go SMU. Let's see what you can do. Kevin Jennings was exceptional. I wonder if he heard our pod. He did not. And he heard us talking about the Kevin Jennings, Tyler Shook conversation of which one would you rather have. And we both picked Tyler. And he said, okay, bet. And he went 21 of 27 for 281 plus 113 yards on the ground on 10 carries and a touchdown. He didn't turn the ball over, which was huge because the Shook interception was bad. And that was kind of part of the issue there, that SMU was +1 in the turnover margin. But KJ was just so good, and I was so impressed, Mac. I was so impressed with SMU's poise on the road at Louisville.
Yeah, I 100% was too. And, again, kind of we brought it up all up and down last episode about teams on the road and how are they going to do and how different teams are at home versus on the road. What do they look like? And Louisville is a very good team at home recently. And Coach Brom just doesn't lose at home. Well, he did to these guys. And I think it was the confidence that we've seen grow like crazy from Kevin Jennings. I mean, he was like 11 of 11 or 13 of 13 at one point going into the game. And his first miss was like a throwaway. It wasn't even a deflection or a bad pass. He just, didn't want to take a sack. So he tossed it. So he has been very impressive in his last 3 starts here and the things that he's been able to do, how he continues to grow and develop and, just be a vital piece. I mean, I think this is a snapshot. If Coach Lashley, maybe a little bit more, running back yards, they only had 190 only. That's a big deal still. That's a good number. But I think if they have a little bit more there, I think this is the snapshot of what the SMU offense wants to be. I think they're really comfortable with having, KJ have 10 plus carries. I think they're really comfortable with how electric he is, how efficient he is in the passing game. And like you said, the lack of mistakes, the lack of putting the ball in jeopardy, that was always my biggest thing with him. I thought that there was more potential there and clearly athletic ability, that just can take you to another level. But when we went to practice, he turned the ball over a lot. And I was just like, you can't do this. You can't play in a game and do this. And he has tightened it up and he looks great. And I do also want to give a shout out to Preston Stone.
Yes.
When his name was called in the middle of the game, 1 play, touchdown, let's go. Very cool of him. He has been a great teammate throughout this entire process. Obviously still being on the team. I don't know what the future holds or if he plans to go somewhere else, but the fact that he's there and supporting his guys and loves these people, I really, really love that. And again, just the entire thing from SMU has been impressive. Coach Rhett Lashley is dialing it up. I think he's one of the best play callers in the country. And this is a team that's getting really hot. And the interesting thing about SMU to me, KG, is when you look at their schedule, we thought that up until this point was going to be the brutally difficult part. We thought playing Louisville was going to be nuts. We thought that playing FSU, TCU, BYU, all those were going to be brutal. And then you can kind of coast to the end. Well, now you have a 1-loss Duke team, a ranked Pitt team, a dynamic Boston College team, a winning Virginia team with 1 loss, and a Cal team that has one of the best defenses in the league.
Yeah.
This back half of the schedule is brutal. So buckle up, pony up, and let's go. But here's what I'll say too. No Miami, no Clemson.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
It is. And they have a bye this coming week. And then they're at Stanford, which, they just traveled to Louisville. Now they're going to go to Stanford and another road test, but they do get a bye, which is really big for them. Yeah. And Mac, I think overall, so impressed with SMU. I'm glad you brought up Preston Stone because I don't think that would happen, especially an incumbent guy like Stone. I know he got hurt last year, but I don't know if the way he's acted and supported KJ and then comes in and throws a inevitable, is an important TD pass because you win by a TD, by the way.
Yeah.
For him to just stay involved is huge. I think it says a lot about that program. But I'm just going to flip it over to Louisville for a second. I thought if SMU was going to win this game, it was going to be because of their offense. SMU's defense absolutely outplayed Louisville. And the Louisville defense, to me, Mac, has been kind of the more troubling development for this Louisville team. I know Shuck had the really bad interception. I know he took 3 sacks, and part of that, again, SMU's defense, 3 sacks, 6 tackles for loss. But Louisville did not have a single sack. Now, I get it that Kevin Jennings is tough to bring down, but no sacks, only 3 tackles for a loss in this game, didn't force any turnovers. I thought the Louisville defense would be a bit more disruptive, more similar to last year, and we just haven't seen it from Louisville.
I agree with you. And again, with the personnel that they had going into the season, I remember doing these previews and, I was
Yeah.
kind of out on Louisville and not thinking, okay, just too much to guess on what it's going to look like with all these transfers coming in. And then, you dive on the personnel and the defense, who's back, who is coming in that you feel really good about. And you're like, oh man, this could be a really elite unit. And I agree with you. We haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen that be a win because of, not in spite of, type of unit, at this point. And again, an SMU team that's going to create takeaways, get the ball back, had, a handful of sacks and tackles for loss, and was dynamic and made plays when they needed to. So I agree with you. The Louisville team losing 2 in a row, I still think they're a solid team. I still think they have, obviously a lot in front of them, and kind of similar to, what I said about SMU and the schedule cranking up. They do play Clemson. They do play Miami still on their schedule. Actually have, Miami next after, again, I said their bye week. So that'll be the next team that Miami plays. So they relatively still control their destiny and still have everything in front of you because you play those big dogs and Pitt. So they got, everything is fine. Take a breath, reset, get it going in a hurry, and you'll be okay. But this thing could also get really ugly really fast.
And they only have the one ACC loss because, of course, the other loss was Notre Dame. Mac, they go to my Who's, though, this weekend. So put some respect.
I'm going to let you talk about your Who's in a second. Don't you worry.
We'll get there. Maybe I would say SMU had the best win of the weekend. The second best win of the weekend was Syracuse. Syracuse goes to Las Vegas and beats number 25 UNLV in overtime, 44-41. Such a fun game. So much offense. I think we'll mainly talk about the Syracuse offense, but the blocked punt. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm starting with negative. The blocked punt that became a touchdown was brutal. It feels like maybe Syracuse doesn't have to take this game to overtime if that doesn't happen. But LaQuint Allen, and McCord was great, Gadsden was great. We can talk about all those guys. LaQuint Allen with 4 total touchdowns, and the run at the end of the game to win it, where in overtime, where he just said, "I will not be tackled. Sorry, I will not be tackled." That was incredible. What a fun game, and what a win for Syracuse on the road.
It was amazing. And let me just tell you guys, that's how we do it in the ACC, okay? Friday night, we're going to take you into the wee hours of the morning. Saturday night, we're going to take you into the wee hours of the morning. We got you. We got you. That's right. We got you. All right? So just lock in, sit down, have fun. ACC After the Dark is for real. But yeah, Kyle McCord, I mean, just electric. Threw it 63 times. My elbow and shoulder hurt from thinking about that. It's crazy, but throws for 350, 3 touchdowns, distributes the ball, gets it to his guys. We were begging and pleading and saying, where's Aronde? I think he's going to be back this game. And boom, explodes for 150 almost on the ground, or excuse me, through the air. And as you mentioned, LaQuint, just undeniable. I mean, the dude was in twice in the most adverse situation you can be, keeps his feet moving, finds a way, converts, scores. And you love to see that because that's why he came back. Coach Fran Brown, I remember very excited about him early and knew kind of what they were getting with him. And this is a team that's getting good in a hurry. And you just think, what if this team was sitting at 5-0 right now? If you handle business and do your thing. I'm excited to see where Syracuse goes. And, they're at NC State. As I mentioned, we're going to be there this weekend. Get to see it in person, get to see it live in color. I agree with you. It's a you better not game. It 1,000% is. And that environment, I assume, it is fall break, though. How about that? I learned that little lesson. No students.
Yikes.
But it's still a good environment. We'll see how good.
It is.
Yeah. That's an interesting nugget, though. I'm glad I told you that. A little line number for you.
Yeah, that's good to know for the people who may be interested in that game. Mac, this was the part of the Syracuse schedule that we thought was going to be very tricky and weird and iffy.
Yeah.
At UNLV, get the dub. At NC State this weekend, bye week, and then at now number 22, Pitt. So all these road games, you do have a bye, and then you'll get Virginia Tech at home, but then you'll go to Boston College and to Cal. There's just so many road games left on this schedule. A lot of traveling for Syracuse, but they checked off the first test. And obviously, when we looked at this preseason, we thought NC State would probably be ranked. We were, of course, very wrong. So it at least helps a bit. But we didn't think Pitt would be ranked. So now you flip that. Pitt looks a lot better. So definitely in a brutal stretch for Syracuse.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mentioned some sports betting there. Can we talk about some
Mm.
sports fantasy
Yeah,
stuff as we kind of
Mac,
transition?
I was going to transition us there by saying, speaking of a brutal
You're amazing.
stretch, that was that was that was my picks this week.
Do you want to recap? Because you took some
Oh,
time. I think you need to because
yeah.
you promised the people
I'm
a full breakdown of all of this.
this is what happens. Okay, when you go to Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to play fantasy sports and the most fun.
To play, to play, not to win,
Yeah,
but to play.
not to
Very
win,
easy.
but to play. Use our code GMPOD for up to $1,000 bonus cash. It is so fun. Even if you lose, it's still fun because there's just so much to do, so much to look at, so many things to take, higher, lower, whatever. But Mac, I did my classic thing. I thought about it too much. That's my biggest
Yeah,
advice. All that
yeah.
four week in a row win streak, I made my picks in less than a minute. This week I thought, okay, Kelly, we gotta really buckle down. And it was just that's not the way to go. It's just not. Jay Knott, higher than 2 rushing receiving touchdowns, got that one, obviously. Cade Klubnik, higher than 2 passing touchdowns, got that one. The rest, I don't know. Mac, I was getting cute. Like, I don't know what I was doing. Taking Nolan Hooser, the Clemson kicker, lower than 1.5 field goals made.
Yikes!
All they did was
Yikes!
field
What
goal.
a miss!
I mean, absolutely terrible. But Clemson really had not kicked field goals
No,
until that
no.
game.
Going into that
It's
game, amazing
that's
pick.
laughable.
Coming out of yikes.
Laughable. And then Desmond Reed, again, got cute. Why was I taking his first half rushing numbers? Why?
First
Plus, he had
half.
just a billion
Oh,
receiving.
you're in
Yeah, I
deep
mean,
waters. You're in deep waters.
you're getting, like, Kelly, you're doing too much. You are doing too much. And then Calandria, because, I ride with my Who's, which, by the
Of
way,
course.
that's the game I was correct about, Eric Backlane.
That's
I
right.
had Calandria higher than his 245.5, but he didn't even need to do that. Okay.
Right.
So he
Right.
was lower. But that's
Yeah.
just because the Who's were that dominant. So
Yeah. I get it.
here I
I
am.
get it.
Overthinking.
Well,
Tell me about your
I'm proud of you
situation.
for doing so many. I'm sorry that it didn't hit.
I will never do it again. I'm back to 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
Forget
Well,
that.
I do the classic 8 leg
Psycho.
picks, and I went 5 for 8 and made $0.
Yeah.
It's brutal. It's terrible. Bryant Wesco let me down. Just kidding. Love
Yeah.
you, brother. No touchdown. Cade Klubnik, higher or lower? 236 passing yards. You know how many he had?
235, right?
235. This happens to me every freaking weekend.
It's brutal.
1
That is
yard.
brutal.
1 yard. It's also like sick. How do y'all know these
Oh.
numbers? Underdog, how do you know that?
They're smart.
Weirdos. How do you know?
They're smart.
It's weird. Phil Maffa, higher, lower, 89.5. I knew that was easy. I mean, that
Yeah,
was
got it.
stealing. 154 made me look super smart. Malik Benson, I told you about him. I knew he was
Yeah.
going to be the guy that took the top off. He just needed higher than 15.5, did that, got it for 19. The FSU rushing attack, I didn't think that was going to happen. I got that lower, significantly lower. It was a big number, too. I felt really good about that.
Mhm.
Again, passing numbers, too. This was probably the one that I was a little iffy about, but I hit that. Jake Brenningstool, 2 weeks in a row, thinking he's going to be more involved, but he just
I
hasn't
know.
had to be because a guy like Antonio Williams, 41.5, blew it over, doubled it. That was easy. So 5 out of 8, $0. I'm kind of smart,
good,
not
though.
smart enough to make money.
Mm. You gotta pick just those 5, Mac. That's the problem.
I think I may have found a strategy.
Oh.
I'm going to pick an 8. I'm going to max it out the biggest I can because I feel good about them. Like when I do those, I feel good about them. And what I'm going to do is after I pick that, I'm then going to segment it into like 3 threes.
Oh.
So you
Ooh.
double down on yourself.
This is some big brain stuff right here.
Maybe too big. Maybe I just end up losing more money. Maybe. We'll see. Underdog Fantasy. Use our code GMPOD up to $1,000. Come on. Come hang out. We want to hear about your sorrows and your victories and your spoils. So come join us and come play.
Just amazing. Okay. All right. Let's get to our speed round, Mac. Let's just give a thought on each of these games. If we want to
You
spend
do
a
it.
little longer on our friends over in Pittsburgh, I think we can. So I'm going to start here with, let's see. I'm going to start with my Who's, I think, with Virginia beating Boston College 24-14. Mac, one of the many reasons why I picked my Who's, because of course I'm loyal to my Who's, but it felt, and you tell me what you've seen, because it just feels like to me, even though BC, I think they're a good team, and they've had a really good year so far. It feels like the offense just hasn't clicked. It just
Yeah.
hasn't clicked. And
Yeah.
the turnovers were brutal in this game, and Virginia took big advantage of those. And I know Tommy's trying to, as he told us on the pod, right? He's trying to take what the defense gives you, be better with the football, which didn't work in this game. But like, it just feels like the offense wasn't clicking for BC, and that's why I picked my Who's, and they were at home,
Yeah.
and of course, Wahoo Wah, baby.
We knew that in this game it was going to come down to who makes the mistake.
Yeah,
What
I
quarterback
heard you
turns it
say that on
over?
the huddle, smart
Yeah,
man.
because you got two guys that are dynamic, right? And they're going to do what they do. They're going to extend plays. They're going to try to make things happen. And historically, recently, that
Mm,
still has been Calandria. And
yeah.
that's why I felt like, okay, Tommy's back, first game, he's going to dial it up, do his thing. And then they got into a weird situation. They had to go really, really fast and make things happen. And the turnovers snowballed. And they had three, a fourth if you count the turnover on downs. Great job by Virginia capitalizing. 18 freaking fourth quarter points. Are you kidding me? They don't do that last year. They don't do that the year
No,
before.
absolutely
This
not.
team is taking a step. The culture matters, personnel matters, coaching matters. They're doing that. And it's fun to see. Massive, massive win. They protected home turf, which is always important. And you love to see it. That's our guy. That's Coach E. We absolutely love to see it. And it's cool. I think they have flipped the page and really turned it there. So fun to see
Mhm.
that. Fun to see them continue. Another team that's been really fun is Pittsburgh. They are fast.
Ooh,
They are physical. They score a lot of points and they get a lot of yards. Eli Holsting is that dude. Facial hair questionable. I don't know if you saw any interviews. The mustache is starting to curl a little bit.
hey,
Uh,
mm-mm.
just
It's
not my
just
thing. I'm a
enough.
beard guy, not
It's
necessarily a
just enough.
mustache guy. But hey, do what you do. If you're going to throw for 381,
Brock Glenn has the mustache too.
yeah,
It's too
you know.
much.
Works for one guy, not so much the other guy. But do whatever. Do whatever. 3 tutties, 381 through the air. Get Desmond to read the ball every time you
Yes.
can. Love to see that. And Eli showed off the dual threat. I mean, he had 76 rushing yards. He was a little upset about last week and not getting the yards that he do. So I love this. They're full speed ahead. It reminds me a lot, KG, just kind of drastic difference of offense. When we were freshmen at Clemson, Chad Moore's
Mhm.
first year,
Yeah,
tempo, flying around, having a quarterback that can operate that system. Very
sure.
cool to see. And again, taking a risk on a guy. I mean, a guy that was, in the high school ranks, a couple of years before he was doing his thing at the G5 level. So you kind of have that as well with the FCS level with Coach Cade Bell and what he's doing. Really fun to watch. Those sweet, sweet, sweet baby Tar Heels. Look out. It's not great. Don't know what it is. But we'll see. Maybe they figure it out. Maybe not. I don't know.
Not good. Mac, I'm going to go to a game that I was dead wrong about, and that's Virginia Tech beating Stanford 31-7. I didn't pick Stanford, but I said Stanford would cover, and that was
Yeah.
absolutely incorrect. Virginia Tech, they go out there, they handle their business, they don't turn the ball over, and Stanford just doesn't have a quarterback. So that, if you don't have a quarterback, it's really hard to win with Ashton Daniels
Sorry.
being out. But
Sorry.
shout out Virginia Tech. They got it done.
Yeah.
And now the Vanderbilt loss looks pretty good.
It's a quality loss. I mean, you're talking about
Quality
being
loss.
ranked in a week. You keep messing around. You're talking about being ranked, VT. Let's go. Hold your brakes. I'm just kidding. Not quite. Anyway, all right, let's go to what I thought would be the saddest game of the day. Ended up being a exciting finish. I mean, unbelievable what we saw from there. I do want to kind of briefly shout out Grayson McCall and feel really
Yes.
bad
Oh.
for him. And that hit was so scary. And
It's
thoughts and
terrible.
prayers for him. Hope he's okay, especially with the history of like head and neck injuries before. It's really, really scary. I was happy to see that thumbs up, but really scary play call tackle that happened there. CJ Bailey came in and looked great. I mean, again, threw the ball all over the yard, nearly 300 yards, couple of touchdowns. What he was able to do kind of to escape and extend plays at times was really impressive. But got to give a credit to Damon Claiborne. I mean, that guy is a freak. 140 yards, kind of capping it off there, leading the way. 14 points in the fourth quarter to come back and win. Really impressive by Wake Forest, and just love what we saw from them. That was a great effort.
It was, Mac. I agree. And I'm going to finish here. I know you were there, so you can tell us more about the environment. Georgia Tech beats Duke 24-14. Duke does not cover, even though that number was pretty much right on the money at Georgia Tech winning by
Yeah.
10. Georgia Tech's a good team. I'm just going to leave it at that. Georgia Tech is good. And I think people are sleeping on them a little bit just because they had the Syracuse loss and they are 4-2 overall. but they're good. They ran all over Duke. They bottled up Star Thomas. He couldn't do anything. And they're just fun to watch. I think they're really well
Right.
coached. I think they play complementary football. And I think Georgia Tech they obviously have a tough schedule remaining because it's Georgia Tech. They always do. They've got Notre Dame, Miami, and Georgia left on the schedule, plus some other teams.
It's crazy.
But
Jeez.
they're a good team, and they got the dub.
Yeah, they are. They absolutely are. We were there early on Friday. Got to go to practice. Was hanging out with Coach Key, and he kind of, was talking to me on the side and say, I want to see us get more physical. Like these last two games, we've been a little banged up. We've been playing in a phone booth. I want to see us spread it out and get back to, doing what we do on both lines of scrimmage. Check and check. When you held Duke to 74 rushing yards, you rushed for 250. Really impressive to see. Jamal Haynes on his freaking birthday,
Yes.
KG. Come on. Birthday boy doing his thing. Receiving touchdown, runs for 130. Really impressive. And Haynes King just doing what he does. Still want to see, some more shots downfield, like push the ball. Only had one 20-plus yard reception there to Malik Rutherford. And I think that was actually yards after the catch. I don't even know if that was air yards necessarily. But want to see that element kind of re-added. But I agree with everything you're saying. I think that they are a really good football team. I hope they find a way to go bowling because that would be
They will.
like Coach of the
I think
Year type stuff. Coach of the Year type stuff. I mean, that'll be very impressive to see what they're doing with that type of schedule. What is also very impressive is that we've been talking for almost an hour. We got to go. We got to get out of here. If you stayed with us, thank you. We appreciate it. It's pretty remarkable that you've been here this entire time. You survived. We need you to subscribe and leave some notes. Jump in the comments, whatever you want to do. We're gonna have a massive episode on Wednesday. One of the best quarterbacks in the entire country. That's all I'm going to tell you. You got to figure out the rest. You go do that. See who it's going to be. It's going to be really, really fun. And then Friday, a lot of picks. A little bit more condensed week. It's going to be a short episode.
Games,
Friday.
right?
Yeah, what are we doing? I don't even know what to do with that. It's not a lot at all, but we'll have fun. We'll get after it. Appreciate, again, our partners, Ingles and Underdog Fantasy. Continue to hang out with us all day long, guys, on this app. And, of course, others. We appreciate you. But until next time, we'll see y'all.